It was the day after Christmas in 1996, in the quiet, affluent town of Boulder, Colorado. The Ramsey family woke up not to the joy of leftover holiday cheer, but to a parent's worst nightmare. Their 6-year-old daughter, JonBenét, a child beauty queen known for her bright smile and sparkling stage presence, was missing. Patsy Ramsey, JonBenét's mother, said she found a 2.5-page ransom note on the back staircase of their sprawling home. The note, written on a pad found inside the house, demanded the specific and unusual sum of $118,000 for JonBenét's safe return. It was a bizarrely long letter, filled with strange phrases and instructions, warning the family not to contact the police, but they did. The police arrived, and what followed has been described as a catastrophic failure of crime scene management. Friends and family were allowed to come and go, potentially contaminating crucial evidence. For hours, the search focused outside the home, believing it was a kidnapping. No one thought to thoroughly search the house itself. It wasn't until late that afternoon, about 8 hours after the initial call, that John Ramsey, JonBenét's father, was asked by an officer to recheck the house. In the basement, inside a small, windowless wine cellar, he made a horrifying discovery. He found his daughter's body. She was covered by her favorite white blanket, a nylon cord was around her neck, her wrists were bound, and duct tape was over her mouth. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation and a severe skull fracture. The little girl hadn't been kidnapped, she had been murdered right there in her own home. From that moment, the case spiraled into one of the most sensational and perplexing unsolved mysteries in American history. Suspicion immediately fell on the parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, and even their 9-year-old son, Burke. The ransom note was a key piece of contention. Experts noted similarities between Patsy's handwriting and the note. The amount, $118,000, was almost the exact value of a bonus John had recently received. Was it staged? The family maintained their innocence, insisting an intruder had broken in and committed the crime. They pointed to a broken basement window and an unidentified male DNA sample found on JonBenét's clothing. This DNA didn't match anyone in the family or anyone in the national database. For years, this intruder theory seemed just as plausible and just as unprovable as the theory of family involvement. Over the next 2 decades, the case would see grand jury hearings, false confessions, and countless theories debated in books and documentaries. The media frenzy was relentless. In 2006, a man named John Mark Carr confessed, but his story was full of inconsistencies and his DNA didn't match. In 2008, the Boulder District Attorney formally cleared the Ramsey family of any involvement based on the DNA evidence, issuing a public apology. However, subsequent investigations have questioned this conclusion, suggesting the DNA could be from contamination and doesn't fully exonerate them. Today, more than 25 years later, the case of JonBenét Ramsey remains officially open but unsolved. Who wrote that strange ransom note? Who was responsible for this terrible act? Was it a family member covering up a tragic accident, or a mysterious intruder who slipped in and out of the house unnoticed? The questions linger, haunting a case that has captivated and baffled the public for decades. The truth, it seems, remains buried in the secrets of that winter night. What do you think happened? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you're interested in more deep dives into famous mysteries, make sure to subscribe. As the investigation deepened, the evidence began to contradict itself. Not in dramatic ways, in subtle ones, and subtle contradictions are the most dangerous. The ransom note became the center of gravity, 3 pages long, written calmly, referencing movies, phrases, and language patterns that felt rehearsed. Experts couldn't agree on whether it suggested panic or performance. One camp argued no intruder would take that much time inside a home. Another argued no family member would create something so elaborate. Both sides had data, neither had certainty. Then came the forensic evidence, fibers, marks, traces. Each clue pointed somewhere, but never conclusively. DNA evidence would later complicate things further, partial, inconclusive, enough to suggest possibilities, not enough to settle anything. That uncertainty fractured public opinion. Investigators faced mounting pressure. Media outlets pushed narratives. Armchair detectives flooded forums with theories. The case stopped being about facts alone. It became psychological. Behavior was analyzed. Statements were dissected. Every interview was replayed frame by frame. How did they speak? What did they emphasize? What did they avoid? Normal human reactions were suddenly treated as suspicious, and suspicious ones could be explained as shock. The family remained under an intense microscope. Some believed inconsistencies mattered. Others believed trauma explained everything. There was no neutral ground. Meanwhile, alternative theories gained traction. The idea of an intruder, someone who had been inside the house before, someone familiar with routines, could not be ruled out. But no clear suspect emerged. Years passed. Investigators changed. Methods evolved. Technology advanced. The case was reopened, reviewed, reanalyzed. Each time, hope surfaced. Each time, it faded. Because the same problem remained. Every theory explained some evidence. None explained all of it. And that's when experts began saying something unsettling. This case might not be solvable, not because the truth wasn't there, but because the moment to capture it had passed. The crime scene was compromised. Early assumptions shaped later interpretations. Once a narrative forms, it's hard to dismantle. And JonBenét's case had formed to many. By now, the mystery wasn't just who did it. It was whether the system ever had a fair chance to find out. And as the years turned into decades, one question refused to go away. If the truth exists, why can't it stand on its own? Today, JonBenét Ramsey's case exists in a strange space. It is both one of the most famous unsolved cases in modern history, and one of the most misunderstood. Courtrooms never delivered a final answer. No trial ever resolved the contradictions. No verdict brought closure. Instead, the case became a mirror. A reflection of how investigations can fracture, how media pressure can distort, how uncertainty can harden into belief. Experts still disagree, former investigators still debate. New analyses still surface, and every generation asks the same question: what did we miss? Some believe the answer lies in evidence that was overlooked. Others believe it lies in assumptions that were never questioned. And some believe the truth was lost in the very first hours. What makes this case haunting isn't just the mystery. It's the realization that once uncertainty enters an investigation, it can multiply. JonBenét became more than a victim. She became a symbol of unresolved truth. A reminder that not every case ends with clarity, that some stories resist conclusions, and that sometimes the most unsettling outcome is not knowing. The final files remain open, the theories remain divided, and the silence remains, not because no one cares, but because certainty never arrived. And maybe that's the hardest truth of all. This case wasn't unique. The next one used the same investigative blind spots, and it ended much worse. Subscribe so you don't miss it.